The abstract sculpture sits upon the reflecting pool, and the waters of the reflective pool wash over its side and re-emerge as a single jet of water at the labyrinth center, representing hope and rebirth. I'm sorry, that's there. The labyrinth is symbolic of life's journey. One path leads to and from the labyrinth center. Etched around the labyrinth circle are art, service, science, and commerce, representing contributions to American life and culture. Now with pleasure, join me in welcoming Tanya Del Rio, who is the new commissioner of the Women's Commission for the City of Boston.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, everybody who organized this. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Let me know if I need to. For inviting me. I'm honored. I'm very flattered, and I've been asked to share just my story with you, but I could not share my own story without sharing, a little bit of my thoughts about the general immigrant story and a little bit about what we're facing right now. So if you will indulge me, I'll tell you a little bit about me, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my thoughts on what we're going through. No, it doesn't work. Do you need, should I? Yeah.
Everyone gets clear.
Yeah.
Even around this side, we'll be able to hear better.
Okay. I'll be as loud as I can. So I want to talk to you today about choices. My immigrant story is full of choices, and I do believe that choice, being the architect of our own destiny, is at the very core of the human experience. Being able to decide where to go, who to love, what to work on, what causes to dedicate yourself to, it's really at the core of our human experience. So I had my first experience with the democratic process and dealing with choices that are going to affect your life forever at the tender age of 8. And I thank my parents for this, because they sat us one day around the table and they had us take a vote. My father had been offered a really good job here in the United States. I was a little girl living in Mexico, going to Catholic school, had never even thought of, ever uprooting our lives and moving anywhere else. But they talked to us about how there would be a great opportunity for our family. We would get to meet people that we had no idea about. We had no idea about their different customs and how different it would be. And, they let an 8-year-old, they let a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old take a vote. I know, which in retrospect, I've never brought myself to ask them this, but I wonder if had we voted no, would they? But thankfully we voted yes. They were very good at persuasion, so we all voted yes. And my family held a vote, and we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, where we, were the first people of color in our neighborhood, pretty much the only people of color in our school. And let me tell you, it was a beautiful experience. Yeah, that was the first of many moves for me. They took me to places that I had heard about and wanted to know more about, like Miami, New York, Houston. And I also ended up living in places that I had no idea existed and would learn a lot from, like Accra, Ghana. And I came to love. I became used to being the new kid in school. I learned to love the experience of, discovering a new community, learning the nuances and the differences of how people work, how people celebrate, how people worship, how people eat in many different places. And it was just the joy of experiencing the difference and the joy of surprise and the joy of discovery, and especially learning that people that you thought were different, looked different, spoke differently than you are actually, in fact, very similar to you and as human as you are. So, thank you. So, I love this life though, and I wanted to talk to you about choices because in my family, we made that choice to be open, to take the risk, and to open our minds, but also our hearts. And the problem with my immigrant experience is that I think many, too many, and I would even venture to say most immigrant experiences it's people facing completely different kinds of choices than what we face. As a consular officer, when I worked abroad in Colombia, I met women, plural, many women, who were incarcerated because they had helped their boyfriends or their partners transport drugs to feed our insatiable, appetite for illegal and legal drugs here in the United States. And by the way, had they not complied with the partner's request, they faced domestic violence, they faced threats to their very lives, and were incarcerated in a country that they didn't know. As a consular officer here in Boston, I met an asylum seeker who had been trying to put himself through college. He was being successful in school. And a drug cartel spotted him and just thought that his talents and his skill set was too valuable to have him work anywhere else. So they tried to force him to work with the cartel. He ran away from his town trying to run from them. They found him. He ran away from his state to seek opportunities. They still found him. And he knocked on the door here at the border, turned himself in seeking asylum. Thank you. At the border. And when I met him, he was waiting for his day in court, in prison, having not committed a single crime in his life. He had spent months in prison waiting for his day in court. So I have also met many of my neighbors, my own neighbors, here in East Boston, who live here and arrived here because they were facing violence in their home countries that was threatening their children. So the choice that people are facing is between life and death. I don't call that a choice. And it's not okay that people are facing those kinds of non-choices. Give me a second. It's not okay that we're forgetting our neighbor's humanity. It's not okay that people are facing these non-choices. So that's why I'm very thankful and I'm very proud that in the face of an administration at the federal level that has forgotten that these people are human and these people are trying to not only survive but thrive once they come and contribute here, that we have local leaders like Mayor Marty Walsh that are standing up to this. And I am proud to work for him. I'm proud to work side to side with all the neighbors that are like yourselves that are standing up to this nonsense and that are recognizing that the immigrant experience is actually a strength, and it's actually what's bringing us together, and it's actually what's going to help us thrive.
Bravo!
Thank you. Thank you. I believe that all of us deserve to have a choice in the matter that is our lives. We deserve the right to be the architects of our own destiny, and we must be relentless in defending the right that we have to pursue happiness. So I really thank you for being here. I thank you for embracing and celebrating our difference. This is not only how we're going to survive, but this is how we're going to thrive. So again, thank you. I appreciate everybody being here, and I look forward to the next events.
Thank you very much. I don't think everyone had the privilege and opportunity of walking with us at the park. Who here was at the park with us? Wonderful. Would anyone who was at the park like to share a little bit about their experience walking the labyrinth?
It was awesome.
It was awesome. What was awesome about it?
Well, it's very meditative. And it puts you in a beautiful mood for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it puts you in a really nice frame of mind.
Yeah, transcended.
Transcended. Yes, yes. Maybe beyond your human condition, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. What else? Isn't it incredible that it's right there in the middle of this urban center?
Yeah.
Right? And that you can be transported just right here in the middle of the city, which is so special, which is why we are, the kitchen, we're run by the trustees. We are a land conservation organization. We run properties all across Massachusetts. and we are fortunate to be partners with the Greenway, and we host 60 community gardens within the city. And we also were one of the founding partners of the Boston Public Market, which is the marketplace that you're in right now. Has anyone been to the market before?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Excellent. Well, welcome back. For those of you who have never been here before, this is a community initiative that was 20 years in the making. A group of residents and politicians and community organizations wanted to have a year-round indoor farmers market within the city, and to help activate this, what is historically a market district, the Haymarket is here, and to help activate this building, which was an underutilized property right in the downtown, the heart of our downtown district across from City Hall, and then to also help activate the Greenway, which is this beautiful public space that has helped to revitalize our city. And so we're here as the education partner of the Boston Public Market. We also run a business out in the market. And we host all kinds of events and activities and classes related to teaching folks about all the benefits of eating a seasonal and local food diet. So, why do you think a land trust cares about seasonal eating and local food? Anyone? Sure.
It keeps farmland in production.
We keep farmland in production. We help to do that, exactly. Why else?
It's healthy food.
Healthy food, right? More nutritious, and we're helping to support our local communities, our local economy, our local farmers and artisans. Oh, welcome! Come on in. We have some seats over here. You're just missing my introduction. So
we don't want to miss that.
You have missed.
We were part of the photo shoot.
Oh, good.
Morning.
Excellent. We'll have a seat. We'll get you guys situated. Yeah, so we, as an organization, we run 116 properties across the state. We have 5 working farms, including a dairy farm up in Ipswich, where we produce all kinds of dairy products, cheeses, and also we have a full CSA, community-supported agriculture operation. So we're heavily invested in agriculture in the state, and that's why we're here. And that's why we want to educate folks about why eating a local food diet and why eating a whole foods diet matters to the health of our communities. So we do programs like this, and we're so excited to host this program here. We have a very generous sponsor who has supported this program, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Yvonne, thank you so much for your leadership in helping to make this happen. We're so privileged and excited. And we have some wonderful partners who have helped bring this program to you. And I would actually like to quickly invite them up here just so you know who they are. And then they'll have an opportunity to speak after, and then we'll jump into, I know what you're all waiting for. You want to eat, and you want to see Chef Romero. So maybe Andrea and Barbara and Selena and Liz could come up real quickly. There's Barbara. Just before we begin.
Yeah, thank you.
Real quick.
I'll give you this.
See the groups behind, and if we could just say where we're all from. So Andrea, you start. I know everyone in the room probably knows Andrea.
Hi everyone, Andrea Burns, Age Friendly Boston for the City of Boston.
Speak up, please.
Andrea Burns, Age Friendly Boston of the City of Boston's Elderly Commission.
Barbara Talalian from the Friends of Heritage Park.
Liz Miller, I work in the Mayor's Office of Food Access for the city.
Lisa Jagger with the trustees and the kitchen here.
And Selena Barrios-Milner of the Mayor's Office for Immigrant Advancement.
And Yvonne Tang from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Beyond what we do here, there are lots of resources available to you all. So these folks in the room can chat with us afterwards, so we can talk more about other programs and opportunities that we have, especially opportunities to source fresh local food throughout the city and in your neighborhoods, in your community. And thank you so much. If you guys want to say a few words after, we'll do that. Now we're going to jump into the meat of our program. Thank you so much. And I want to introduce our lead culinary educator, Cleo. Hi, everybody. This is Chef Cleo. Chef Cleo runs many of our programs here, and she's very talented. And she's going to tell us a little bit about what's going to happen today.
Thank you, Lisa. Well, welcome everybody to the kitchen. As Lisa mentioned, I do teach many of the cooking classes here. So when we are not set up in this wonderful family dining style, we often have these silver metal tables in the middle of the room, and you guys are doing the cooking. And I'm just sort of instructing. So it's a little bit easier today. You guys just have to sit back, relax, and enjoy. We are so honored and thrilled to have Chef Leo Romero from Casa Romero here as our first chef guest and for this program. And he and I met on Monday morning, and I've been looking forward to this all week, basically since then, because he told me what he was cooking, and he's about to tell you all what he's going to be cooking, and then we'll all get to enjoy it and discuss how food brings people together. It brought us together today. It brings people around the tables, sharing culture, sharing stories. It's done so for time immemorial. So without further ado, Chef Romero from Casa Romero. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cleo. And welcome everybody to the first of a series of what looks like a wonderful program that will continue throughout the summer. Somebody asked me what I was going to be making today, and I refrained from answering right then because I wanted to surprise everybody. Now, has everybody had their breakfast? No? Who hasn't had breakfast? Well, anyway, this dish is dedicated to you because in Mexico, it really is mostly a breakfast dish. It is not something that you eat other than at breakfast, but you can because it's really good. And I chose it because it's not only delicious, but it's very easy to make. In Mexico, the traditional breakfast are the leftovers from the night before. Although nowadays you can go to any restaurant, any hotel or anything, and they will give you an American-style breakfast as well as a Mexican-style restaurant. What I'm making today will be served only in the Mexican-style restaurant, not in the American-style restaurant. The dish is called chilaquiles, C-H-I-L-A-Q-U-I-L-E-S, chilaquiles. I don't think it has a translation, so that if you want to say it in English, you call it chilaquiles. Obviously, it has some sort of chili, but anyway. I'm going to show you how to make them, and the ones that we're going to eat actually is already cooking in the oven. Chilaquiles are made with tortillas. In Mexico, you know, we don't. Mexico did not produce wheat or rye or any of those grains, but it did have corn. Corn is native to Mexico, and it was Mexico that gave it to the world. Corn now, you know, is one of the most important grains, and it's probably Mexico's most important culinary contribution. So we're very proud of that. People always call a restaurant and say, oh, I'm allergic to gluten, or you have gluten-free. Well, everything is gluten-free because we don't use wheat flour for anything except for desserts and pastries and things like that. But for regular cooking, we usually don't. I'm making this with 12 tortillas, which will serve around 4 people. And that's just I'm doing it just to show you how it's made. And then we'll, I have the other 40 or so dishes there in the oven. I'm putting a little oil in the pan. I'm going to raise the heat. And I'm going to take the tortillas, there are 12 of them in here. I'm going to slice them into little strips like noodles. Can you see? Okay. there they are, little strips. I'm going to throw them in the hot oil. This all comes from your kitchen.
It's sunflower oil?
Sunflower.
Canola or vegetable?
Yeah, we always use just mostly canola oil in the restaurant. Who can give a better description of a canola? What is it? Okay. I don't know if you can see this on the TV. Yeah. I'm cooking these so they get a little crispy, like tortilla chips. Not quite that crispy, but okay. So there they are. They're sort of cooked enough now.
What oil you are using?
Huh?
What oil you using?
That's canola. That's canola oil. That's why I couldn't answer the question, because I borrowed it from them. They told me I didn't have to bring any oil with me.
This is actually sunflower seed oil.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sunflower.
Yeah, but any high temperature cooking oil.
Yeah. I'm going to throw just a little bit of salt, because you know tortillas don't have any salt. It's not coming out, but there it goes. Okay.
No. Only the iodized salt will have.
Okay. Now, I'm going to throw a little bit of salsa in it, and I'll show you later how we make the salsa, which is basic in Mexican homes. I mean, the first thing they make every day is salsa, fresh salsa for the rest of the day. Tomato and peppers, onions. Probably about a cup full for the 12 tortillas. That is up to you. If you like, if you don't want them to be too heavy with oil, just use a little, but probably a quarter of a cup of oil to a third of a cup of oil will probably be enough.
You told me a story about the women who make the tortillas.
Oh yeah.
That I really enjoyed.
You want me to tell the story? Okay. Let me just make sure this gets done and turn it off. Okay. Now the chilaquiles at this moment are partially done. The only thing we're going to add is whatever you want to add to it. This is almost like making a pizza. You can make it out of 50,000 different things. What I like to do is just add a little cheese. But you could add little pieces of chicken. You can add chorizo. You can add anything you want, anything that's left over in your refrigerator from the night before. You can just chop it up and just add it. And then we're just going to add a little bit of cheese. And this, in Mexico, we have cheeses that you can't get here really unless you go to a Mexican food store and so on. Mexican cheese, Chihuahua cheese. It's very similar to cheddar, but it's not as oily as cheddar. So then we add a little mozzarella to absorb some of the oil, and then we add some Monterey Jack or something like that. We use a combination of 3 cheeses because there isn't, the Mexican cheese is not readily available. But it can be any kind of cheese that you like. And then we just put it on the top. And there again, this is basically what a typical home meal would be for. This is enough for 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how big a portion it is. Okay? Now, I have brought from the restaurant some refried beans, which we are going to eat with the chilaquiles, because normally refried beans are the leftover beans from the night before that they mash them and fry them. Okay, so that makes them a little tastier. And I'm going to show you first how to make a salsa. This is called salsa casera, a housewife's salsa. And most of them, I would imagine that 98% of the housewives do it exactly the same way, because it only asks for about 4 ingredients. Tomato, cilantro. A lot of people don't like cilantro. If cilantro tastes like soap to you, that means that you're allergic to cilantro. That's the result of the allergy. You don't get red or you don't get itchy or anything. You just it tastes like soap for people that are allergic to it. And becoming very popular in the United States. When I opened my first restaurant, which was in Cambridge, Casa Mexico, I was still a graduate student. You couldn't find it. You had to go to Chinatown, because the Chinese were the only people that used cilantro in those days. I'm talking now about more than 50 years ago. Now it's everywhere. Not only the cilantro, but jalapeno peppers, avocados, real avocados from Mexico, and fruits like papayas, jicamas, all sorts of things, even cactus. Cactus is now becoming very popular here because it's got a lot of good things, a lot of vitamins, and very few calories. And it's delicious. Don't be afraid of trying it. Okay, the salsa, as I said, is basically... Oh, sorry.
If you don't like cilantro, is there possibly a substitute that you can use?
Well, you can use parsley, but it's not going to taste the same. I mean, cilantro has a unique flavor, and if you don't like it, you know, you're not going to use it anyway. So, but no, there's no substitute for it from the point of view of taste. I mean, but yeah, if you want it just as a garnish or something, you can use parsley. I mean, which most people do use. Okay.
Did you say jicama with this food?
Well, I don't know what to call it. I mean, it looks like a potato, and but it's you eat it raw. I don't know that you cook it. I mean, if you do cook it, I've never had it cooked, and it's you slice it any way you want, and you can normally all the street vendors in Mexico have jicama and cucumbers and so on, which they cut for you and then add a combination of chili, salt, and lemon. But okay, so I'm going to just chop this tomato as finely as I can. I'm just going to make a little amount just to show you how, mostly to show you the ingredients, because you know you all know how to chop and dice and so on. Another way that you can also make it, you can use it with a grater. Do you happen to have a grater handy? Which makes it much easier to use. See, that's been the tomato that has been liquefied. Yep, perfect. Now you can either chop them, or you can use the grater to grate them. How many of you have ever grated a tomato before? Now, the advantage of that is that it also peels it. Okay? It's also peeled. And there you go. You see, this is more of the consistency of this. Okay? It's finer. Okay? Now, there are two kinds of salsas that use exactly the same ingredients. The four ingredients are tomato, onion, cilantro, and jalapeno pepper. This is called salsa casera, and if it's not grated tomato or anything, it's just all chopped like this. This is called pico de gallo. Okay, that's the difference. It's the same four ingredients, except that this is blended or grated tomato, and this is just chopped.
Can I pass them around just to
Sure,
show people?
sure. That might be too heavy, but
Okay, I'll just,
is that okay?
Just so you can see the difference.
Okay. So that's salsa. Then you add, of course, the pepper, also finely chopped. Now, be careful with jalapeno pepper, because always wash your hands before you wipe your eyes, okay? Because otherwise it's going to hurt. I cut it in half because I want to remove all the seeds. The real heat is in the seeds, okay? So if you don't want it to be too hot, get rid of the seeds. And this is the garbage. I forgot what you told me to use this. Okay, and they're basically, it's mostly seedless now. They may have one or two seeds in it. And they're the same thing. We're going to chop it as fine as we can. As you could see in the thing, in the dish, the Cleopatra, the things are very finely chopped. And there again, you can start adding to it. And I already have the onion chopped. So there are three ingredients. And then the cilantro. And if anybody is not familiar with cilantro, Cleo can pass it around and you can all taste it and smell it. It's delicious. Cilantro is not original to Mexico, however. Cilantro is Middle Eastern.
Can I take a little bit of it?
Sure, yeah. Yes.
If you leave it growing, it'll go to seed.
Yes.
And the seeds you can take and dry, and it becomes coriander. And you can use it all winter. You have a mortar and pestle, and you can use the coriander in your food, your Mexican cuisine or your Middle Eastern cuisine.
Yeah. And you can also grind the seeds in a pepper mill if you want. So basically here we have not a very good copy. This was made in the restaurant, so they can chop much finer and so on than I can. And there's the the finished product over here. These are just demonstrations to show you how simple it really is, and with the 4 ingredients. And you just add a little salt, a little pepper, little lemon juice.
So we don't have to buy it in the supermarket?
Pardon me? You don't have to buy it at the supermarket. A little thing like this costs over $2, and it's not as good, and it's too expensive, I think. Now, and the last thing I'm going to show you how to make is guacamole, because everybody likes guacamole. Avocados. When I first came to Boston, you couldn't find any sort of Mexican things, and if you happen to find avocados in the market, of course, and which is still the same, they're very hard, which means that they are not fully ripe. But because they won't ship if they were, they get too soft when they're ripe, and you don't want to ship them that way. They ship them when they're green, and you keep them for a couple, 2-3 days, and then they'll out of the refrigerator, and then they will soften up enough to use this guacamole. You hear the word mole in describing Mexican food. Mole is not a Spanish word. It's a word that it's a Nahuatl word. Nahuatl was the language of the Aztecs. So it's a Nahuatl word, mole. So guacamole means an avocado sauce. Mole poblano is the most famous mole in Mexico, and that is a sauce that includes more than 50 ingredients. The more, the merrier. And one of the most interesting ingredients in it is what? Who knows? Chocolate. So you are all familiar with mole, okay? Chocolate and chili, because those two products are native to Mexico, and obviously the all of the, not just the Aztecs, but all of the other tribes of Mexico, the Toltecs and so on, they all ate moles, made moles, and they're different in every region. Mexico still has a regional cuisine. Here now, almost all of the cuisines are integrated. You can go to Los Angeles and eat the New England clam chowder and everything that was normally only found in New England. And you can go to Boston and eat gumbo from Louisiana and all of that kind of stuff. It's become, our cuisine in the United States has become a national cuisine, pretty much, you can say. You can identify it as being from New England or being from Creole cooking from Louisiana, or Southwestern cooking from the Southwest. There's a difference. Mexican food, I consider to be the descriptive way of saying the food that is made and eaten in Mexico. Tex-Mex food is the Mexican style food that is made in the Southwest. There are many things that are similar. However, there are many things that you find everywhere in Tex-Mex restaurants here in Boston, for example, and they are Tex-Mex, and they'll have, you know, they're Tex-Mex is they sell burritos. What does burrito mean? A little burro and a little donkey, right? Now, you go to a restaurant in Mexico and you want burritos, they're going to say, well, you want donkeys? You want little donkeys? Just remember, I'm not saying anything against Tex-Mex cooking, only that it is different. And everything is piled with cheese and so on. You can't even tell what you're eating because everything is covered with cheese, no matter what's underneath. Okay. Enough of that. Don't get me going on that. Now, well, the guacamole obviously then is going to be very easy. I'm going to take this. I'm just going to do a little bit just to show you how to do it. You take out the meat from the peel. There's just a little bit of dark thing there. It's not bad, but it's not elegant or pretty. See how soft the avocado is? Very soft, okay? I forgot to bring a fork to mash it with. But you basically mash it. You add a little bit, either salsa or pico de gallo, whichever you prefer. And I'll make it with pico de gallo, which is I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. I don't know what happened to my salt. Anyway, and a little salt, okay? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. And everybody asks me how much salt, how much pepper, how much this and so on. To taste. Okay, salt to taste. And I'm in a bad habit of just taking out of this, and I ruin many a dish by serving too much salt. Well, it's not coming out. There, just about this amount. Half a teaspoon per avocado. And there you have it, instant guacamole. You don't have to go to the supermarket and buy canned. They have canned guacamole and frozen guacamole and so on. I mean, why? All right, so now you're all hungry? Okay, so we're going to start eating then. Oh, sorry. Yes?
Is adding lime juice Tex-Mex or is it
Lime juice. In Mexico, what we call a limon, which translates literally as lemon, is not a lemon like you have here, the yellow lemon. The yellow lemon was brought to Mexico by the Spanish, and it's called limón de Castilla, Castile lemon. And the lemon in Mexico, what we call limon, looks like a lime, but it's different from the limes, what we call a lime here. What we call a lime here is technically a Persian lime. And in Mexico, we don't have those because to us, the lime and the lemon are interchangeable. The lime tastes more like lemon than it does like Persian lime. Yes?
If I go to a restaurant that serves tortas, are those real Mexican or are they Tex-Mex?
Oh, no, tortas are Mexican. Okay. Yeah, the tortas are Mexican, and tacos are Mexican, and enchiladas and tortillas and so on. But with tortilla there again, 95% of Mexicans, when they talk about tortillas, are talking about corn tortillas, the little tortillas that I just showed you to make this. We also have flour tortillas. The flour tortillas are more eaten in the northern part of Mexico. They're eaten all over Mexico now. But when I was growing up in Mexico City, tortillas were not tortillas, but yeah, tortillas were corn tortillas. if you wanted wheat tortillas, you had to go to a Sonora-style restaurant, you know, a restaurant that served northern-style cooking. Now it's more popular. More people like them, but there again, the original real tortilla in Mexico is a corn tortilla. Okay, if you don't want a corn tortilla, you have to tell them that you would prefer a flour tortilla. Turkeys originated in Mexico. They migrated north, were able to cross the border without any problem, wound up as far north as probably even Canada. And the Pilgrims found them here in New England, and that's why they think that it's from New England. It is not. The turkey is the first illegal immigrant. The other products that we have contributed were not illegal immigrants because, of course, they couldn't walk. Corn. Corn is the most important contribution of Mexico to the world. It's eaten all over the world, and so on. At one time, corn, Mexican corn, had a geographic limit which was roughly around what is now the border of Mexico and the United States. It didn't grow well beyond that. Until in the 19th century, they started hybridizing it and doing things to it so that it would survive cold weather and could be grown in places where the soil would freeze in the winter, where of course they can't grow it. So corn is probably the number one contribution. Tomato. Now, where would Italian cooking be without the tomato? The Italians got the tomato. Italian cooking, the original Italian cooking, was mostly the northern part of Italy, and that's what influenced French cuisine. The French did not invent French cuisine. Marie de Medici took her northern Italian cuisine, cooks, and so on, to France when she married Henry IV, and everybody loved it. She also took the fork to France so that the people could start eating with forks, not with their hands. You've seen pictures of England and France and so on sitting at a table and holding the food in their hands and chewing it. Well, Marie de Medici changed that. Mexican food, a few years ago, was considered by UNESCO to be a patrimony of mankind, just like they do with cities. They also do it with cultural things, and cooking being a cultural element. They couldn't pass Mexican food as being the patrimony of mankind because it was considered to be the healthiest cuisine in the world. Because France objected, and France has the power of veto, and they vetoed it. 4 years later, when the question was brought up again at the United Nations, they had to include Mexican food French cuisine with Mexican cuisine, and they declared French cuisine and Mexican cuisine to be patrimony of mankind. So far as I know, those are the only two cuisines that have gotten that title. Now, people here misunderstand Mexican food because, as I was saying before, a lot of it think Tex-Mex is Mexican food. Tex-Mex uses a lot of oil and cheese and so on. What you has oil and has cheese, but that is not true of a lot of Mexican cuisine. Mexican cuisine was never fried because they had no oil to fry it with. So everything was probably grilled on a on a grill fired with logs, with wood. Yeah, yeah. And but frying was not native to any of America, because the oil for cooking was brought over from Europe. So just those few things, but I mean there are countless of vegetables and fruits and so on that originated in Mexico that we eat every single day of our lives. And I just wanted to make that point. And as I say, the most important one is corn, but lots of vegetables and lots of spices and herbs and so on that are used in Mexico and exported all over the world, or now grown all over the world. I grow my own cilantro and things like that.
How about potatoes? Because they have
Potatoes came from Peru.
Yeah.
They came from South America, but there again, they were not. But sweet potatoes came from Mexico. The sweet potato yams originated in Mexico. Many products. And so just to give you an understanding of Mexican cuisine, it's much more extensive than people give it credit for, because a lot of people think of, Boloco or places like that as being the definitive Mexican food, and that's just a small part of it. I mean, those are snacks. What they're serving there are snacks. Okay. And I'm very happy to hear that all of you knew that mole was made with chocolate. Right.
She's on PBS, Patty Hinnant.
Oh, yeah, she's the one that's...
It's on PBS.
Yeah, right. I've seen one or two of those cooking shows, I think. I don't watch television very much, so I don't,
I only watch PBS.
Oh, I only watch PBS, too. The News Hour, that's it. I get my news from the News Hour. Thank you very much for your being here. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you all for joining us. Let you know we have, Selena, did you want to come up and maybe tell us about the next one? Sure.
So I hope you enjoyed today, and the good news is that this is a series, so we're going to have monthly sessions, each featuring a different cuisine. So next month we're going to celebrate the Cape Verdean community, and July happens to be when Cape Verdean independence is, and we're going to have a chef from Restaurante Cesaria. And so they'll be sharing that, and it's going to be the similar format. You start at the park, hear about someone from that country, and then come here and get to learn about the cuisine. So I just wanted to tell you also, I'm with the Office for Immigrant Advancement. We're right at City Hall, and we help serve the immigrant community. So if you or anyone you know needs any support, we're there for you. You can always call 311. That's the easiest way to get to any city department. But we also have a card back there. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Selena. And I'd like to invite you all to, if you'd like to join, go out to the marketplace, do some shopping. If you have any questions for any of us, we're here. And like Selena said, we hope you join us again. Thank you so much for...